Writing isn't just about words. Writing is about the process of thinking, about analyzing your ideas, getting them on paper, and then going to take action on them. Today, I'm going to talk about 6 tips from Writing to Learn by William Zinsser. And it really relates to this kind of engineering design process of continually improving upon what you're actually doing. And the writing process itself is extremely helpful for sorting out our ideas and rethinking how we're going to actually accomplish them. If you're new to the Bookmatic channel, this is the channel where we talk all about how to learn well. And of course, one of the best ways to learn well is through reading and applying your knowledge. So today's video is exactly about that. Writing to Learn, written by William Zinsser, was alive for quite some time. He passed away when he was like 92. He was a teacher, an editor, a teacher at Yale, so kind of connects well with me because I'm also a teacher and I teach students how to write and how to read well and how to think well, how to speak well. So this is something that I work with on a daily basis. But this knowledge can also be transferable to other areas of life, which is why this video could be helpful to anyone out there watching who writes. And that's pretty much everybody who writes and follows through with what they say or what they write in emails or anything like that. So on page 46, the process that I thought was actually quite brilliant, and the way that the author was explaining the process was more like casual, not really like here's step 1, here's step 2, here's step 3. It's written in a paragraph, so I just noticed that, these are actually steps that someone can follow. So if you can see here, I'll just put up on the screen the steps that I wrote here. So step 1, I want them first to go to the literature so that they know the experiment has been done before and what to expect in the lab and how to plan their work. Having to plan their work helps them to write it up as they go along. That's step 2 and 3, actually, how to plan their work, write it up as they go along so that writing becomes woven through the entire class and lab experience. If they fall into a pitfall, then they can, step 4, explain how they got there. And that's education. The process also enables me to see how their mind worked. By having them describe how they arrived at a result, step 5, I can comment on it, meaning the teacher can give feedback. And then they can make use of my comment when they go back to the experiment. There's feedback that isn't possible when the teacher just grades for numerical scores and answers. Then step 6 for the student is to revise based on what the teacher has given feedback on. So if you're in the outside of school already, you could always give your piece of writing or your work, show your work or present about it or something like that to someone else who can then give feedback. Or if it's at your job, you can get feedback from your boss or your coworkers and then adjust from there. So this process is very similar to the engineering design process or any other processes out there that uses kind of a loop type structure. And we can see that all around us whenever we're learning or creating. There's always this kind of loop or cycle type process. Whenever I'm teaching a class and I have my students maybe doing some research or preliminary work on making a project or writing an essay, whether it's in English language arts or global perspectives, I always start out a new topic or idea with kind of a preliminary knowledge. Of course, I ask students, what do you know about this topic? And then I get them talking and maybe sharing with each other. And then on maybe another lesson or that same lesson, I will have students go out and do some preliminary research. I will have them discover what has already been done, what has been covered before, what has been made before, whatever it may be. I have them read the literature. And so this gets the students' ideas primed for whatever it is that they are going to create. So in your life, you could do something similar when you're starting a project, and maybe you don't know much about it. So you need to go out and look at the literature, read about it, watch some videos about it, and then get your ideas flowing, brainstorm, and maybe write ideas down, which is actually part of the step 2. So once students get an idea for what has already been done, then they can start to make a plan and write down this plan as an outline as to what it is that they want to accomplish. Writing this down and then carrying out the plan by further writing information down, putting things together, and building it step by step. In engineering design, it's quite similar, where you're continuously referring to and adding on to the ideas that you've already written before and following your plan as well. So it's scaffolding, it's growing upon what you've already done and what you've already learned and what you've pieced together so far. And one of my favorite learning strategies of all time is the Feynman technique, which is basically being able to explain what you've done so far or how you've done what you've done. And if you cannot explain what you've done, if you cannot help that other person understand what you've done, then you don't know it well enough. So explaining in words that make sense to you and the listener or the reader is an utmost important part of this learning process. And basically also this step can help you revise or reflect on what you've already learned, and you can find gaps in your knowledge. So if you cannot explain it well enough, then you can go out and search for the right answers. And maybe if you're building something or whatever and you made a mistake and it doesn't quite work so well, then you can reflect and then build upon that. And in almost every single case, this next step is getting like teacher feedback or boss feedback or coworker feedback or friends or family feedback. This step is one that we kind of feel shy or kind of feel maybe reluctant to do, depending on the person that we're getting feedback from. But it's an essential one because getting feedback from someone can help you to improve on what you've already done. And then the revision process after that, taking that feedback. Of course, not every single person that you get feedback from is going to be credible or something that you might want to change. For example, if you're writing a book and you let some people read it and give you feedback, you're not necessarily going to change the parts where they give you feedback on, but you can see kind of some of the gaps or the areas of improvement if it's consistent from the people that you're getting feedback from, right? Then it may signal that you do need to make a change. And relating this to engineering design, this is the iterative process. Iteration is so important in the engineering design process because then you can iterate and grow and improve upon what you've already done, what you've already created. And in many cases, especially for students, this design process is going to come in handy when preparing for the final exams or anything like that. Of course, you may not get multiple chances to submit, but in some courses it is possible, and in some places of work it is also possible to have multiple submissions, and therefore you're trying to perfect your product. And you notice that throughout this whole process you're writing things down. No matter what it is that you are creating or doing, you are using writing as a tool to reflect on what you've done and what you've learned and what you've written. And I see this with my students all the time. When I give them a task or a project and they start just writing things down, writing ideas down, the progression of improvement from the beginning to the end is quite drastic, especially after feedback. And then that student can take and grow and edit and revise Some students can be quite lazy to do so, but if they are made to do so, then it's going to push their boundaries, go beyond what they've already done before in the past, maybe make them a bit stressed out a bit because of it, but because of that stress, they can learn from the process of editing and building upon what they already know. I know for 100% fact that this strategy will help you out. So when you get out there and you have another project to do, or you're writing something down, make sure you follow the steps in this book, or at least try them out. So first go out and study the literature, find out what's already been done, then plan out your work, write it down, and then keep on writing it out as you go along. And then explain how you got there, explain the process, and reflect on what you've already done. Then hopefully you can get someone to comment on and give feedback on what you've already done. That way, maybe you need to make adjustments. And then finally revise based on that feedback, on the relevant and the credible feedback. That way you can grow as a writer or creator or whatever it may be. Follow these steps, this design process, engineering design process, or writing process, thinking on paper, getting it down and learning from what you've already learned before, and grow upon that. So what are your thoughts about this writing process? You think it would be useful for you? Please do let us know in the comments. Let's start a conversation about the topic of writing to learn and the engineering design process, and any of the experiences that you've had using something similar to this or the same as this. So if you are not already subscribed to this channel, please do subscribe now, share it with a friend, help get the word out there about writing to learn, and maybe pick up the book as well, Writing to Learn by William Zinsser. So take care everyone, and I'll see you in the next video.